So this guy's Anaxa. Bro's name sounds like a theorem. He also happens to make the Herta the Jesus now. Welcome to I brought every Anaxa team to every endgame. Oh yeah, every day is here from the Creator Experience server. Also, disclaimer, it's 5 AM. There's probably gonna be less fluff in the video. It's just straight information and value. And speaking of that, let's just take a look at how Anaxa is generally played. With him, you simply want to make sure you inflict the qualitative disclosure state on your enemies. If you're able to do that, Anaxa will be able to do one skill or basic and repeat the same thing one extra time free of charge. No skill points needed. That is how he deals the most damage, and having the extra hit does make the Herta gain her ult even faster. The way you inflict qualitative disclosure on your enemies is by simply existing with Anaxa on your team, and if the enemies have 5 or more weaknesses, you will be able to inflict this state on the enemies. Now, in order to implant all those weaknesses, we have to utilize Anaxa's talent as well, which allows him to land a weakness on his enemies for every hit that he does. His skill happens to also bounce 4 times, and each of the time can land new weaknesses via this talent on anyone that it hits. That means getting 5 weaknesses with Anaxa is really not hard at all. You know, just one skill. If one guy has qualitative disclosure, you just use it again. Everyone on the map would just have every weakness now. Not to mention, he still has an ultimate ability, which is a simple AoE but inflicts the sublimation debuff. This is basically a debuff that inflicts every single weaknesses in the game on the enemies. So Anaxa can easily land qualitative disclosure. It is not an issue for him. He's also equipped with these 2 major traits, which one allows him to gain buffs depending on the team, and the other gets him more damage per weaknesses on the enemies. The last major trait gets you energy, 30 of it if no one has qualitative disclosure. So yep, understanding that, he's pretty simple. The whole idea is to just use a skill or basic to rack up weaknesses, all when you want all the weaknesses instantly, and hit qualitative disclosure enemies twice with his skill or basic. That will maximize his damage, and it's just nice to keep all the weaknesses up for everybody else on the team as well. And with his stat line, the first thing to note will be his Lightcone. This free event Lightcone that I'm using is actually very close in performance compared to his signature. I actually recommend prioritizing his Eidolons first instead of the Lightcone. But well, I've tested both builds, one with a free-to-play one with his own signature. They both managed to clear in 2 cycles anyway, so I just stick with the free-to-play one for this whole video. I actually do recommend just sticking with this one for yourself. He has the wind set one block with energy regen for the rope, crit rate body, and speed boots. A pretty simple sub DPS build, and we'll be featuring this build in the best team for him first, which will be the Herta squad. By the way, I'll show every stat at the end of the video. Having his talent that buffs your whole team's damage by 50% if you pair him with at least one other Erudition character, this team is the perfect Anaxa team, especially when the Herta also gains the most benefits if there's another Erudition character in the team. I'm using Linkshot as well, but I will be testing other healers in this video. Just know that though, that the healers do not make too much of a difference. They all have their own pros and cons. Now then, focusing back on the game, you'll notice that the boss finally got rid of his damage reduction here. We healed with Linkshot to get rid of the damage reduction on me, and now we can finally start showing everything. Anaxa did land every weaknesses out there on like everyone now. It just looks ridiculous, dude. That means we have qualitative disclosure on everybody, but unfortunately we are out of skill points here, so yeah, it is an issue with the Herta teams, but thankfully Anaxa does still activate an extra hit, which does point out that he's designed to generate your skill points sometimes if you need it. You'd still benefit somewhat from the extra hit. We outright here, which puts on sublimation. Does decent damage as well, and yep, the ice weakness that's usually not on this boss now makes the Herta hit even harder. She's now in a position to weakness break the boss, or heck, just freaking kill it. Even Tribbie and Linkshot are all benefiting from Anaxa's 50% team-wide damage boost from his talent, and also just having their own elements as weakness. All of that combined does make this team quite lethal when over half of them does great damage. So finishing the first phase, we move to the second. This time we have the skill point, so Anaxa gets to click his skill, which does not do much damage with the boss's damage reduction again. It's unlucky though, because yeah, it's just not the perfect boss that's ideal for Anaxa, especially when it has this phase that ignores weaknesses types as well. But thankfully, it does not stop Anaxa from having the qualitative disclosure state on the boss still, even when he's ignoring all the weaknesses. So we'll still get our double skill into the alt off. Now that the damage reduction is removed, his damage output, as you can see, is actually quite solid. It's nothing to write home about as the top tier broken DPS, but his role is to become more of a sub DPS that supports the team with the weakness types and damage buffs. We are able to do like, you know, sometimes 200 to 300k damage here across his skills and ultimate. In any case, we managed to get a 2-cycle clear. This is with the free to play Lightcone on Anaxa, and yep, I did test his signature Lightcone with the same setup on screen here. here, they pretty much clear at about the same time and they play pretty much the same way as well. The main reason being that the Lightcone more helps you avoid lack of energy than helping you do more damage, right? But with an ERR rope, you're usually able to just use an ult every 2 actions, which is ideal enough. Now, just as an experiment, I did fight another boss being the Reaper with this team, just to see if like he can take fighting multiple different types of bosses down the road in the game, because we don't just fight one boss, right? And truth be told, the performances are honestly not too far apart, so I think this is a decent representation of what Anaxa can do. But yet, against the Reaper boss, we still use 2 cycles to clear it, so it's really not that big of a difference. I think it's a fair standard to set. And yep, next, let's move on to the second team I got for you. It will be the Jade Anaxa partnership. The idea here is where Jade buffs Anaxa and Anaxa can do double skills, right? Every hit of his skill counts as a charge for Jade, which just means you'll have a beautiful synergy of Anaxa's skill into Jade, instantly getting her talent follow-up. Jade prefers a multi-hitter like Anaxa, and he prefers an Erudition character like Jade. Truly a pair made in heaven. However, though, the team ended up clearing MOC 12 in 3 cycles, which is a bit slower than the best option that I've just showed. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you think about it, because the Herta was kind of dunking millions of damage on the previous team. We don't have a person of that caliber here. Still though, more than enough to get you a 3-star clear. Plus, this team is definitely going to do better with more of an AoE scenario than this, but we'll talk about Pure Fiction later. Also put on a list to compare between these few teams later on as well, so yeah, just stick with me here, guys. And the third team I got for you, it features a main DPS Anaxa build with crit damage body, speed boot, and attack rope instead now. And yeah, it's also aided by Sparkle and Sunday. This is a question that surrounded Anaxa where people were wondering if a main DPS Anaxa was a good idea. Long story short, it's actually not terrible, but it's definitely not optimal. You see, Anaxa's talent buffs himself with massive crit damage if he's the only Erudition character on the team. That does mean Hoyo designed him to have some sort of versatility in mind. So with a team like this, you're looking to hyper buff Anaxa with every buff you got, including his own talent. I got Sunday Sparkle just to essentially triple his turn as well with the action advances, and the damage he can do is around 150 to 200k mark here, with the ult is closer to 300k. But yeah, with a lack of burst damage, he does instead do consistent damage with the extra skill, being able to take multiple turns with his team while the enemy are stuck having all 7 weaknesses. The whole idea was to just continuously push Anaxa with the 2 action advancers, and yep, it ended up being a 3-cycle clear. Not bad, right? Though I would say there is a minimal reason to force him to be the main DPS, so I won't be retrying this team for the other modes. He can do damage decently though, no doubt. But hey, sure enough, you ain't out damaging Castorice's left toenail, bud. And going down the rabbit hole, we have the 4th team. Now remember when I said it's every team? Well, try to make it every team, and even the weirder ones. I got a full break effect set up on Anaxa this time, and while I said it's weird, but the whole idea surrounding this team kind of makes sense when, if Anaxa can plant every weakness, can we not just have him be a super break maestro that can break any element? Well, to answer that question, the short conclusion is no. His super break damage is nowhere near solid enough on his own, even with a break effect build. What he does well though is he does shred the toughness bar decently quickly, but then you also got to think about how you're wasting his talent that gets you crit damage with this setup. It is pretty awkward. The only other idea is to replace the healer of the team with the only other Erudition super breaker, which is Rappa. That way it would make it actually perfect, since now Anaxa buffs your whole team with damage buff instead. Rappa will be the main contributor to super break damage, while you just need Anaxa to shred some toughness and put on all the weaknesses. But with that setup, you wouldn't have slot for a healer, so it would more be like an obscure 0-cycle setup, and it's just not too consistent of an idea. We ended up taking 4 cycles to clear it with this team, which again, it's actually not bad, no? Well, here are some comparisons. You can kind of tell the pairing of him with the Herta is just too well oiled as a system that it makes me want him to oil up. I mean, moving to Pure Fiction now. We'll start with the Herta Anaxa squad first. This is now an interesting part, since Anaxa being Erudition usually means he'll be solid against multiple enemies, which I'll say right now, he deals with Pure Fiction okay, but he does have just one slight issue, where if the enemy dies, they lose all of the weaknesses that you've implanted, and a new fresh wave comes in with no qualitative disclosure stayed on. That does mean sometimes Anaxa won't get to do his extra skill, since you need to plant 5 weaknesses first and then hit that person to trigger that effect. Not too easy to achieve that when the enemy is explode every 2 actions, especially with a Herta just nuking species like that. Even then though, Anaxa's damage on its own is not bad at all. He's able to clear out some of the waves, and of course, the biggest value in my opinion is that he places the ice weakness on top of Kafka's head, which Kafka usually does not have that weakness before, but now suddenly it's like the stage is made for the Herta to clear. You gotta reckon with the ice weakness. That for me is what makes Anaxa actually very unique. It's like if you pull him, you're always going to have an option to just use the Herta whenever you want. Just slam on the ice weakness and go. No other characters can do this specifically, right? This team ended up grabbing 40k max points with over a full cycle left still. Literally goated. Team number 2 here though, we got something that should make more sense here than MOC. It is the Jade Anaxa partnership team. This team should make more sense here, and it's where he should truly shine. Anaxa is able to either one-shot the wave and trigger Jade to one-shot another wave to then activate Anaxa's skill to one-shot a wave again, or it's just gonna be a mix of all of that. As I mentioned, you put Jade's buff on Anaxa, and now they just help each other with the charges and follow each other beautifully. In a move like Pure Fiction with the mobs being squishier, this setup is akin to the Himeko Herta synergy, when instead of breaking their toughness bar, you break their kneecaps and crack their skull open. Well, though I say that, we actually only got 38k points with this team. If I were to guess, it's just because of the lack of Tribbie damage, right? If you pair her with Anaxa's buff, all those damage does rack up over time. Not to mention, we kind of already have a team-wide action advance from the crit buff, so sometimes it did just stall Robin's value a little bit. In any case though, a solid performance still. Moving onwards, final team for this mode, which should make sense a little bit, would be a Himeko Ruanmei setup. Now this one's interesting. I still have the same sub DPS build on Anaxa here instead of a super break one. We're more just utilizing Anaxa's ability to put on every weakness here, including fire, to make Himeko have a win con in any stage. Usually Himeko's problem is that if there's no fire weakness, she's instantly unusable. Anaxa should alleviate that problem to some extent, and surprisingly though, this team didn't actually end up performing too well. Similarly, the reason being when the wave resets, you might not have the fire weakness up. Anaxa then has to get lucky to put on the fire weakness up again, but sometimes you just don't get that one weakness you need. Plus, Anaxa is not quite like Castress where she breaks everyone simultaneously and evenly. The bulk of Anaxa's abilities are bounce attacks, so spreading them over 5 enemies does make it a struggle to break them, even with double skills being activated. Sometimes we are able to break them, sometimes we miss 1 or 2. In the end though, we ended up with a 26k point clear. Not unsalvageable, it's just not too great though. And the numbers are in. We got the Pure Fiction teams here, and of course there are going to be some renditions that, like, what if instead of Himeko it was normal Herta? Well, I can't try every tiny variant, but just know that I'm trying to showcase all the general ideas that people may have with this character. It's hard for me to actually try every combination of characters that exist, but yeah, you can imagine normal Herta would perform similarly in this case though. Same if you like put out a healer for another healer, right? In any case though, we'll move to the Apocalyptic Shadow now. Starting us off is the best team. We got the Herta, Anaxa, and Tribbie. As I mentioned, the healer does not matter too much with all of them at their pros and cons, so here we're just gonna use the free Luocha. And yep, not much to mention in this setup. Having the ability to just have the ice weakness no matter who the boss is feels absolutely wonderful. Now this boss just had ice weakness to begin with, but even if he didn't, Anaxa pretty much forced every weaknesses to be up permanently this game. With this blue bug's gimmick being that you want to weakness break it fast, Anaxa is literally perfect for the job, being able to consistently whittle the toughness bar down, and we get to slam all of our damage in with the least resistance. His damage output again is not bad at all. It's around the 200 to 300k range, but again, not gonna be under Herta, more like gonna be a multi-weakness implanting Jade, right? Fast forward to the end, we got the clear at 3.6k points, which is more than enough for a 3-star clear. And with that out the way, let's move on to the next team, which is probably the next best team as well for Anaxa that makes the most sense, and it is the Jade Anaxa team. It is just the same thing, so I won't be showing way too much of it, but yep, if you buff Anaxa with Jade, Anaxa slams multiple enemies twice, Jade gains insane amounts of charges to whip him silly. At the rate of this bug spawns his minions, which is basically every chance it get after I hit it, I actually managed to just farm the amount of charges Jade has by attacking multiple enemies every time. And over the course of the whole clear, the damage that we did just skyrocketed, right? It felt like we couldn't really hold a candle to the Herta before, but this time we cleared the stage with 3.5k points, which is very close to what the Herta managed to do. If I had a Tribbie here instead of Robin, it's a likely chance we get 3.6k, if not more, since Tribbie does benefit from the damage buffs from Anaxa, and let's not forget, Tribbie herself does really good damage. As I mentioned though, there's no realistic way I can test every small replacement, like, oh, what if it's Gallagher instead of Luocha here, or oh, what if I go Tribbie, Robin here, or Robin then Tribbie here. I try to showcase each of the scenarios like at least once maybe. And I hope I definitely got the point across to you guys though. There should be quite a lot of pairings and interactions that could aid you in deciding whether or not if you want to go for an Anaxa in the video. In any case, on screen are the stats. And in the meantime, a quick final rating on Anaxa. I actually do recommend grabbing him if you are a hardcore the Herta main. It's just the perfect final puzzle for that team, right? It's also fairly versatile with the weakness implants and such. Like, you can use that team in any week, right? Like, doesn't matter about weaknesses anymore. I definitely suggest getting just one copy of him and sticking to the free-to-play Lightcone, as have I done this video. It's just good enough. And yep, for the rest of us, the easiest suggestion would be wait for the next live stream first, and let's check out what's coming next before deciding if you want an Anaxa. Yo, also click this video right now. It's pretty cool. Be a happy little boy if you do. But yep, I need some rest now. You guys enjoyed.